So we are back with some spoilers. So for the past 2 days, we've just been getting some variety spoilers, so no new champions. I didn't really feel like covering yesterday, but 2 days in a row, I feel like there's some decent amount of cards. I haven't looked at the new cards for today yet, but I've seen the ones from yesterday, so still super excited because I think there's some really interesting stuff. Especially I'm like looking through my periphery at the screen, and these cards look kind of interesting. So let's jump into it. First card, Demacia, 3 mana, Royal Degree. Focus, give an ally +2/+2 or challenger this round, or summon an Honored Lord. Now, Honored Lord is the 3 mana 3/2. You guys can't see it here, but it's a 3 mana, or sorry, 2 mana 3/2. If when the first time I challenge a unit, give me barrier. So again, this concept of summoning units for mana is really interesting. I pointed this out the other day on the MR podcast, where I think they're releasing a lot more cards that summon units with mana, which is really good. Or rather, that concept is really powerful because you sort of get to cheat the system, right? You get to summon units using spell mana, which is basically like Tri-Beam. If you think about like with the Tempo Swing from Tri-Beam, it's somewhat similar, although, you know, just less good because you're not removing your opponent's unit, but you do get to use more of your mana in these more tempo-focused sports-based decks, especially like the Demacia region, that doesn't really have the best way to utilize spell mana sometimes, and can, if you miss out on like a turn 3 play, you can play this card on turn 4 if you top deck it, and then you kind of get to make that up. The effect itself, give an ally +2/+2 and challenger this round. Is that good? Seems interesting. Like, say give this to like a quick attacker, that's like pretty good. The first thing I can think of is like Sivir Demacia, but then at that point you'd rather just play like Ruthless Predator, and that deck already doesn't play that. I've seen some decks play Confront in the past, so like, you know, the Pantheon decks used to play Confront, which was a 2 mana grant challenger, and obviously granting challenger is probably better than this like +2/+2. You can't really use this as a combat trick because it is a focus speed spell, so you do have to pre-commit this. So this reminds me of Sonic Wave, right? It's a +2 attack and challenger on a 3 mana spell. It is focus, so again, you can't use it as a combat trick, but Sonic Wave, you pre-committed the 2 mana most times just to get the challenger anyway. So being in Demacia, this effect is like a mix of two things. It's a mix of a confront, and it's like a pre-nerf sharp sight, but just focus speed. I think it's like okay. It's like subpar. Maybe it's like a, I don't know, like Demacia already has so many challengers, and if you just want a stat buff, you'd rather have like a burst speed spell. Something of Honored Lord probably isn't good enough. I don't think this card is that great. Alright, moving on. Moral Support, 4 mana Ionia Burst. I see Shen in the background. I see Shen support. Costs 2 less this game if you have supported. Costs 2 less if you have supported an ally this game. Give an ally Barrier this round. 2 mana Prismatic Barrier. Let's go. I mean, that's insane, right? Like, you play Shen, support, or you can play earlier things like Young Witch, whatever it may be in Ionia. And you get a 2 mana Prismatic Barrier. That's kind of nutter butters. Now, is this going to make Shen a better deck? I don't know. But now, if you're playing like, I don't know, Shen Lulu or some sort of support archetype in the future, this is a really powerful card. Like, 2 mana Prismatic Barrier is insane. It's so insane. In the right decks that can make this cost 2, I think this card is phenomenal. It's really cool. Next card, Kinku Student. I love like all the random Shen support all of a sudden. 2 mana Ionia 3/1. When another ally gets buried, give me barrier this round if I don't have it. Oof. Oof. Now that's a Shen card. Now that is a Shen card. I mean, the ability to just like absolutely like turbo level the Shen, and once Shen is leveled, just a 6/1 barrier is kind of crazy, especially for a 2-drop. And, you know, even if it doesn't get much value, just as a 2 mana 3/1, like that blocks Fearsomes on its own. It's pretty chonky. That's really good. And if you play this, and then, you know, your opponent's attacking on 4, you play Shen, and all of a sudden you have 2 barriered units. That's wild. This card is really good as well. These are really insane for Shen. Although I still don't think the classic Shen Demacia gets any better, but there's hope for future Shen decks. That's really cool. I really like these 2 cards. Scavenged Camo Cloaker. 3 mana PNZ, grant an ally elusive and Nexus Strike, draw 1. Oh, oh my god. That's crazy. So granting elusive, you know, like Sumpworks map, but for 1 extra mana you get Nexus Strike, draw 1. That's kind of crazy. Is it? It's interesting. Like, the likelihood of, say, your target getting, you know, more than 1 hit in to draw more than 1 card, I think is relatively unlikely. Especially because you're pre-committing this card, right? I guess you don't need to pre-commit it. You can just use it, you know, if no one's blocking it, just to get a draw 1 on for 3. And at that point, I don't think that's is as good. If you're looking at like these elusive cheese decks, do they need this effect for 1 extra mana? I'm not sure either. It's interesting. I don't know if this card is particularly good or what deck can utilize the best. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's good. I don't know. It's hard to evaluate. I don't think this card is particularly good. Maybe I could just be completely wrong, but I don't see this getting enough value. Especially in PNZ where 1, you don't have any protections tools. So if you do pre-commit this and your opponent is able to kill it, you're gonna lose out on a lot of you're losing out on a lot. For the decks that do want this elusive cheese, they're better running like ambush, right? Instead of something like this, where you also get a little bit of attack and it's 1 mana cheaper, especially when these ambush combo decks are so mana intensive. You don't want to pay 1 extra mana to draw 1. I don't think think this card is good. Michael's Blessing, Targon. 3 mana burst, grant an ally +1/+2 and remove all negative keywords from it. Interesting. Remove all negative keywords from it. I'm trying to think about where this gets value. So it removes vulnerable. It removes can't block. It removes, like, I believe it removes frostbite. It would remove ephemeral, which is interesting. It's so like niche. It's so weird. Like, most of the time you're removing a negative keyword that your opponent places on you, which makes this card really niche and probably bad. And so then you're designing a deck that plays cards with negative keywords, but you're also pairing with Targon, which seems weird as well. Like, what you play, you play like, say, Wise Fry, and then you remove vulnerable off of it. When you play Golden Narwhal. I don't know. I'm not impressed by this card. I'm not impressed. And then we have 2 more husks. So if you haven't seen, on day 1 we got the Spell Shield husk, and now there's a tough, elusive Challenger region Fury husk, which I think is all leading up again to the Evelyn champion. So it's really interesting to see what Evelyn is doing here. What's also really weird is, while these cards are tokens, so I will make this correction, all these cards, all the husks are tokens, they're also different regions. So theoretically, there's some Evelyn Bandletree deck out there. But it's really interesting. I overall, I do love this husk mechanic. It looks really interesting. Definitely depends on like what Evelyn does. But this overall ability to not only grant a +1 health, but a keyword of, I would assume, your choice is really, really good. Especially since that they're saying that you can give it pretty much any keyword. You have tough, elusive, challenger, fury, spell shield. So the Huss and Evelyn look quite good so far. Alright, so that was today's cards. We'll just go over yesterday's cards. Frozen in Fear, 4 mana, slow, frostbite an enemy, summon a Rhymefang Pack, which is the wolf that grants +1/+1 for each time you frostbite enemies this game, which is cool. Again, this is what I talked about. All these cards that summon units for mana is really, really powerful, especially in this sort of situation where you're also frostbiting an enemy and gaining a Overwhelm Wolf that has +1/+1 for every frostbite. I think this overall frostbite's a little bit harder in present day Ash Nox. So maybe it's like a 4 mana 4/4 overwhelm frostbite an enemy, which is still pretty good if you think about it. It's just a little bit awkward at a slow speed when all frostbites are pretty much burst. So it's hard to say, but overall concept of summoning units for mana, especially in these board-based decks, is really, really powerful. And I think it would benefit the deck. It's a little bit trickier because this, I don't know. It's an interesting card. I love the design of it. I don't know if it's good enough. Cracking Ice, another card that I just really, really love the design of. This is a 1 mana burst spell that says grant an enemy frostbite me at next round start. Which also means no. But essentially what this does is you like pre-commit this card onto an opponent enemy, and then at the round start of next turn you get a frostbite. Which is interesting again, because you could combo this with Ash, right? You can pre-commit this frostbite to flip Ash, or to have a leveled Ash to decommission it from blocking. So essentially you can bank one frostbite going into the next turn. And in this idea of like these combo centric decks that really care about how much mana they have and how much mana they can spend, it's an interesting way to like get off a combo faster. So maybe this can like help Ash, play in some much faster combo oriented styles for like these earlier OTKs. Unsure what that would look like, but it's definitely a possibility. It's a really interesting card. I just don't know again if it's good enough because it does nothing for the round. It's interesting. Like, you can also use this like defensively so that your opponent can't like open attack, I guess, but then all your frostbites are like burst speed anyways. Uh it's interesting. It's an interesting card. Like, it has utility, but is it like necessary utility is a different question. Captive Yeti, 6 mana 5/5 overwhelm Yeti in Noxus reputation. I cost 3. 3 mana 5/5 overwhelm. I mean, that's pretty solid. We've seen like the Yeti support or the reputation support. We've seen the Noxus landmark. And if you're, getting reputation a lot faster because you're striking a lot more, you're rallying a lot more, like this can come down like what, reputation turn 5. And all of a sudden you curve like, or like turn 6 and you curve 2 of these on turn 6. Like, that's pretty insane. Now, this card is basically the Ancient Yeti, the 7 mana 5/5 overwhelm in Freljord, which discounts itself. But you don't need this to have in hand, right? So it's just like almost strictly better. So this card's really insane. Overwhelm on Yeti is already cheating because Yetis just lacked the overwhelm keyword, and they're just like stat checking you outside of like Ancient Yeti. But now like having another Yeti in the mix, I think, is absolutely cheating with overwhelm. That's crazy. I think this card has very good potential to boost the Yeti archetype. And then the last card, Solari Stellacorn. This is the disappointing card so far. This is really disappointing. For those of you who have been around for the last couple months, I really like the Daybreak archetype. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's really fun. And I was really hoping for a little bit more Daybreak synergy or like Daybreak support. And this card is not it. This card is absolutely dookie. I don't know why they would print this card. I'm saddened to see this card being printed because this dilutes the Raven pool. You're not gonna play this in your Daybreak deck. Daybreak doesn't really want this effect. It's 5 mana. This card sucks. I'm saddened. I'm really saddened to see a new Daybreak card, but it being absolutely terrible. And then we have the 3 Last Husks. It's again really interesting. Well, that's like the new cards so far. I'm really a huge fan of this Shen support kind of idea. Now it might not even need to be in a Shen support because Lulu can do this as well, right? You level Lulu and you can give barrier. Like, this looks like a very aggressive swarm card that can also play very defensively, which is really, really cool. Like, Shen Lulu, like, having these 2 cards might pop off. I'm really excited to see if something like Shen Lulu can like come back. These are interesting cards. Like, these spells are so interesting. It's like Kai'Sa synergy, I guess. Like, you give challenger for Kai'Sa. I don't know. But it's only this round too. It's so weird. And then extra like Frostbite synergy, and then Yeti synergy. There's so many interesting things that they're pushing, which I'm really excited about. And Kai's art itself already looks like pretty cool. So definitely very excited for the expansion. Hopefully we get a champion tomorrow. Tomorrow's seasonals, I guess, but hopefully we get a champion tomorrow. We might get. Oh, we'll probably get it Sunday when they do the reveal on the official broadcast. But these cards so far have looked really, really interesting. I'm really excited for the direction that some archetypes are going, and I hope that these will stick, because these, especially these two cards, look really, really strong. And the synergy too, right? I feel like these are so, so good. But that's gonna be it for this video. Nothing like too exciting, but hopefully we get a champion soon. Hopefully see where these husks are coming from. And there's a lot to look out for. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a pleasant Friday. If you guys are playing seasonals, best of luck to you guys. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, guys. Take care.